The Oklahoma City Thunder survive and advance against Portland, but that's all they needed to do. We'll talk about that on today's Locked On Thunder podcast.
You are Locked On Thunder, your daily Oklahoma City Thunder podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Get it going on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am your host, media member, and Inside the Thunder beat writer, Rylan Stiles. Follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. Follow the show on Twitter at LOThunderPod. Go to InsideTheThunder.com and check out all the great work over there. Today's show is brought to you by Game Time. Go download the Game Time app, create your account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Go check them out today. But on today's show, we're talking about the Oklahoma City Thunder surviving and advancing against the Portland Trail Blazers, but the starters did shine. Josh Giddey played really well in this game. We'll talk SGA, we'll talk J-Dub, we'll talk your takeaways on today's show. Look, this was not the most beautiful form of basketball you're ever going to see. This was a game where you truly had to just gut it out and come away victorious. The defense was frustrating and was non-existent for the majority of this contest. 128-120, the final score against Portland. 18 turnovers for Oklahoma City. They typically protect the basketball, but also dominate the turnover battle. They had 18 turnovers. Portland only had 17, so they had more than Portland did in this one. But the Thunder did flip the switch a little bit and flip the script a bit on the glass. They won the rebounding battle 39-32. But ultimately, you can see how rare of a game this was. Portland not only forced 18 Thunder turnovers, but they shot 41% from three. Another game in which the opponent is having this just kind of odd shooting night, abnormal from what their season has suggested they should be shooting. And Portland did a really good job offensively in this game. Neither team did a great job defensively. The Thunder are plus 10 in the paint. They won second chance points by 2. And Portland actually wins fast break points, which again is a category that typically goes to Oklahoma City. Now I get it. A wire-to-wire win where you at once led by 16, that should be celebrated in any context. I understand the frustration of at times in this game, even though Portland never took a lead, at times in this game, there were some low points. The game got to 2 points a couple of times. The defense, again, was just not there. But you have to remember, this is an 82-game season. And I say that as in March, the games are piling up. We talk about March Madness. We talk about survive and advance in March Madness. Regardless of your seed, regardless of your expectations, just go win that game. Same way in March in the NBA, but for different contexts, right? You're surviving to get to the point of playing for stakes. But right now, you're playing in these games where, the games have piled up on you. You're beat up physically. You're exhausted. And these games just do not have a ton of energy to them whenever you play certain teams like a Portland. Like this game really had no juice to it. You had to bring your own juice. You had to manufacture that from within. I think that, you can discredit it at some point. Like you can forget like how emotional it must have been to see Bismack Biyombo pass out. According to Nick Gallo, luckily from the Thunder, that he's okay. He's alert. He's laughing. According to Mark, everything seems to be fine right now. The Portland Trailblazers staff has eliminated any serious medical injuries. But regardless, you see someone pass out that's gonna do damage. But even beyond that, you look at this Portland team. They've been embarrassed twice by the Thunder, like just outright, absolutely and totally embarrassed by Oklahoma City, undressed by this Thunder team. And then the third loss, they let get away from them. They let slip away in OKC, where they just had this monumental collapse. And so these are NBA players. These are the ultra competitive athletes that they are. They're going to want to win these games. And so I think that whenever you are in the minutia of staying up for a West Coast game and taking on a team who you're supposed to just steamroll over, that you can raise the bar a little bit too high. I think if I told you at 8:40, the Thunder would go up by 16, would never lose the lead, and would win this game wire to wire, I think you all would rest pretty easy. I think some of you wouldn't have watched the game. You would have just said, okay, they've got it under control. The journey to get to that point was very rocky. It was not a sustained 16-point lead. It was nothing like that. You had these peaks and valleys. But the fact that the youngest team in the NBA, if you weight it by minutes played, the youngest team in the NBA was able to, on the road, on getaway day, at the end of this road trip, whenever their bench isn't contributing a ton, they had 14 bench points and 10 of them were from Gordon Hayward. Like, whenever you have that happen, to still be able to not only capture a win, but again, never give up the lead, I think is still worth a ton of respect in that case. And you're just looking to get these gimme games any way you can. You'd, of course, love to blow out these poor teams at the end of the standings, and you'd love to win every game by as much as possible. But as long as you get the win, it's not going to truly matter. I think that the biggest things that happen in this game, we're going to talk about Josh Giddey, we're going to talk about Dort shooting, we're going to talk about all of the starters that played really well. But some of the bigger things that happened was that Chet Holmgren, had a little bit of a nasty fall trying to catch a lob, but he seemed to be all right. Obviously, he's been beat up this whole road trip. You had the elbow to the face. You had all these kind of different bruises and everything. He was bleeding at one point in this game. So, like, he's going to be beat up. SGA had a nasty, scary fall with Jeremy Grant. I think that, he did return this game, but I think that that's an injury where you look at it and you're likely going to feel it more on the off day than in the moment. So he did complete the game, but I don't think that that is, just for my speculation, I don't think that that puts him in the clear. Absolutely. The Thunder will have an off day tomorrow, you have to imagine, because they're not going to get in until 5 a.m. Tonight. So with that off day, we'll know, circa 5:30 to 8:30 window of what the status report says for SGA for Friday's game against Miami. But I wouldn't be shocked to see him on it, because these kind of injuries, whenever he gets hit on the thigh, like these kind of things, not only was he hobbling at the end of this game, but they will, I think, take their form or do their damage the next day, which would be Thursday afternoon or so. So we'll see what the response is from that. But ultimately, those are like the two biggest things that happened with Bismack beyond what we talked about earlier. Of, luckily he's in good spirits and he's all right. But that was a scary situation. But on the court, I thought that you looked at this Thunder team and you saw their starters play really well. That's a huge plus. You saw that Gordon Hayward got into a bit of a rhythm, got into a bit of a groove. That's another huge plus for them. And most importantly, they got the win. They're now tied for first place in the West, and they are able to continue to chug along here and open up a long, lengthy homestand. They're going to return home. They're going to welcome in Miami, welcome in Memphis. Like, Memphis is a bad team. Frankly, you should be able to beat Memphis any way you can on Sunday. And so that gets the ball rolling for the week and whatnot. So coming up, let's get into the starters, because all of them played well. Let's get into Gordon Hayward and your takeaways. But first, I want to tell you right now about our good friends over at Nissan. Go shop Nissan right now by going to NissanUSA.com. That's NissanUSA.com. Why should you go there? Well, because your next adventure is waiting for you. Are you the kind of driver that likes to push things a little bit further, go a little bit past your comfort zone, go into this adventure? Well, guess what? Our friends at Nissan have the lineup for you with SUVs that have capabilities to take your adventure to the next level. Go check them out today at the 2024 Nissan Rogue. Would be a perfect fit for you. If you're a city driver who likes to have a great escape every now and then, go check out the Nissan Rogue with top of the line, just interior, and you get the Google Assistant built in, which is a lifesaver, of course, in this modern era. So go check it out today, because the 2024 Nissan Rogue is the perfect midsize crossover for your next adventure. Also, you have the Nissan Pathfinder, which is going to be great because it can help you if you really are into like this massive horsepower, 284 horsepower engine, 6,000 pound towing. Like if you're into those big, extravagant, rugged adventures, the Pathfinder is going to be there for you with 4x4 capacity as well. So check it out today. Go there to Nissan, shop NissanUSA.com. That's NissanUSA.com. Take your Nissan Rogue, the Pathfinder, even the Nissan Armada, which is going to be great for you as a full-size SUV, and go find your next big adventure. The Nissan Armada has that rugged 4x4 that can seat up to 8 in first-class luxury style. Go check it out today at nissanusa.com. That's nissanusa.com. We're back on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. Thank you so much for making us your first listen every single morning, every single day. We're here for you, talking Thunder basketball. Let's get into this game. So we mentioned it. No lead changes, obviously no ties either, besides the 0-0. The Thunder, once led by 16, they did out-rebound Portland, which they win a rebounding battle again. They were, sadly, you look at this and you usually can say the Thunder are clean with the basketball. They had 18 turnovers in this one. The Thunder shot 58, 40, and 84. Portland shot 50, 41, and 88. So this was a offensive game for each side. And then for the Thunder, you kind of dig in here, and credit to Anthony Simons. He goes off again for Portland. That was a great game by Anthony Simons. You look at at what he did, and it was 29 points on 52% shooting, 5 threes on 50% from beyond the arc. Jeremy Grant had 20 points. But for the Thunder, it was your starters. It was the guys who you want to see leading the way that did lead the way for Oklahoma City. SGA put up 37 points in this game, 3 rebounds. He had 8 assists. He had a steal. He had a block. And he shot 56% from the floor, which includes 3 missed threes, which is still how efficient he is. He can go 0 for 3 from 3 and shoot 56% from the floor. He had 11 for 12 from the free throw line. He was just hitting those rise-up mid-range jumpers because he could go over the top of everybody on Portland's team, and he could just exploit them. He had the fancy footwork finishes. So did Chet Holmgren spinning through the lane. He went 6 for 9. He had 14 rebounds, 21 points, and 5 assists with a block as well. And then you look at the swing factors. We're going to get to J-Dub, don't worry. We're going to get to J-Dub. But you look at the swing factors. Like, the swing factors are going to be Lou Dort and Josh Giddey. And Lou Dort, for the vast majority of this season, has shot the basketball well from beyond the arc. Really well from beyond the arc. And he's heating up yet again. 2 for 3 from 3. He continues this hot streak, and his decision-making is vastly improved, which helps his playmaking and helps his efficiency because he's no longer taking bad shots. And you see what he does to loosen up this Thunder offense. When he's making threes, when he's knocking it down, plus what he gives you defensively. And again, in this game, nobody played defense, so it's a touchy game to talk about defense. But what he brings you defensively night in and night out, you look at that, and you have one of the better 3-and-D players in the NBA this season. And I think that, like I said, the other day, when you look at Lou Dort go through a little bit of a shooting slump, because it was at the end of the day, you go back and you look at the big picture. That's a fraction of a season where you didn't shoot the ball well. I think that it got overblown because of what you've seen in the past and being nervous or worried that the other shoe's going to drop. I think that this is who Lou Dort is. And I don't really have any worries. Like now that it's clicked for Lou Dort in the regular season, I don't have worries of another shoe dropping for him because he's always performed well at the highest levels. He's always performed well. Whenever he played the Rockets as a rookie, fresh off of a 2-way contract in the bubble playoffs, he performed excellently. Last play-in, he was great. National TV games, he's great. He's always been really, really good when the lights are brightest. It's been those games on Valley, Oklahoma. It's been those games that are more invisible, where he tries to do a little bit too much. He tanks his efficiency. He takes bad shots. He misses 3 threes, and it just kind of spirals previously. And he's admitted as such. He mentioned that he whenever I asked him earlier this season, how he's been able to be more efficient this year, what's clicked for him, he was upfront and honest that what changed was over the summertime, he looked at some of the shots he was taking on film and realized that those were some wild shots. And he stopped taking those ones. And when you stop taking those wild shots, by nature, by science, by math is a science in a way, you get to this point of this really efficiency jump from him, especially from beyond the arc. And sometimes it's that simple. Sometimes it's that simple that the change is just, hey, let's not take bad shots. It was also that simple for Josh Giddey. Back-to-back games where nothing was really done revolutionary for Josh Giddey. What was done for Josh Giddey was that Josh Giddey took it upon himself to be more engaged, to be more active, to stick his nose in it on the glass, put a body on guys, fly around the court defensively the best you can, and just play with overall better effort and consistent effort. So far this season, there's been games where he just doesn't show up from an effort standpoint. There's been games where he starts out incredibly slow from an effort standpoint and then turns it around. But every game that you watch, and you can tell from the word go, you could go back and watch the first 5 minutes of every single game this year to this point in the season, and you can tell his effort level and engagement level on defense. When that engagement level is high, he's going to have success. Because, while he's never going to be this great point of attack defender, and while he's never going to be a defender that you want in space and on an island, of course, Josh Giddey's frame and overall basketball knowledge is going to make him a serviceable fifth defender on a team that's top 5 in defense. Whenever you are covered by SGA and J-Dub and Lou Dort and Chet Holmgren with you, at his size, he can be the 5th best defender. Even in the playoffs, he can be the 5th best defender. But not when he doesn't try. Not when he gets blown by. Not when he gets face cut. Not whenever he doesn't use his frame and put a body on somebody on the glass. Then you run into these problems. Then it looks just awful. When he even gives a little bit of energy, even before you talk about these schematic changes you can make, and these roster changes you can make, and these personnel changes you can make, and these rotation changes you can make, before you talk about any of that, what will automatically make it look better is just playing harder. And when he plays hard, like he did against LA, like he did against Portland, like he did against these other teams like Toronto, when you play hard and play with effort, it's going to turn around because he's talented enough. He was picked with a 6th pick. I get it. But the bottom line is, you no longer need Josh Giddey to be the 6th pick in the draft. You no longer need Josh Giddey to be this star. And God love him. I mean, on the court, hope he pans out with all the best of those aspirations. But what this Thunder team needs is for him to be a serviceable 5th guy. And he can do that if he'll just play his role. Now, in fairness to Josh Giddey, it's also been very hard to play his role. Young guy, 3 years of 3 role changes and 3 roster constructions and 3 different expectation levels. Boom, 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 all these changes in a row. But it's got to click too, where you just control what you can control, where you just put out the effort and let everything else fall into place. Because once you start putting out that consistent effort, then you can start adding in these areas where he can improve within the system, where you use him as a screener more, where you use him as a guy who cuts behind the secondary actions, where you use him as a guy who, like, after the initial action isn't working, or if you watch Chet and Jada run a pick and roll, and neither one of them are going to have much, but of course that's going to draw the attention, and the back's going to be to you as they look at what the pick and rolls unfolding with Chet and Jada. Can you cut behind your guy and become the safety net play finisher for your teammates? Like, then you can start talking about all that stuff. But the first root cause is going to be, can you just play with effort? Can you just play with intensity? Can you just be locked in? And when he is, he looks like a good 5th starter for the Thunder because of how good everyone else is. And I think that you see it in this game where, like, he misses 1 shot. It's a 3. So it ties back into what have we been saying this whole year? We've talked a lot about his effort recently. Going back to August, we talked about, even before anything happened, on the court, of like any bad performances in August, we talked about, hey, in FIBA, he's scoring the ball really well inside the arc. That's got to continue. That's going to be his swing skill in the NBA. It's not going to be his 3-point shooting because he's not going to have a high enough volume of 3-pointers. It's going to be inside the arc. Tonight, 8 for 8. 7 for 7 inside the arc. Don't ask me to do quick math on the fly. 6 boards, 7 assists. Much better as a live dribble guy in this game. A steal as well. Using some anticipatory skills on the defensive end helps him a lot too. He was a plus 17. Chet Holmgren was a plus 32. J-Dub was a plus 24 in a game in which he won by 8 points. Kind of wacky on the plus-minus situations. But Josh Giddey played well. And the whole point of that, no matter what side of the aisle you're on about this Josh Giddey fit with Oklahoma City, the bottom line is there's nothing to be done this season. He's not going to play 0 minutes. He's going to play. You can reevaluate whatever you want to in the summertime, and we will. We have a show every day in the summer. We're going to have plenty of time to discuss Josh Giddey's future in Oklahoma City. But he's not going to go from starting to 0 minutes, no matter what. So how can you flip it and kind of see what his value could be for this team? The value for this team is stripping it down and just saying, hey, can you be a good enough fifth starter? And he can when he plays like this. J-Dub is a star, bona fide star. 4 for 5 from 3. Shot 53% from the floor, 31 points, 4 boards, 3 assists, 3 steals, and a block. If you listen to this show, you know that I like to get into the minutia of all these little details of what I think that these guys have improved upon. We've talked a lot about his driving and his physicality on drives, initiating contact, putting a chest into guys as he's getting to the rim to create space, putting a shoulder on the guys to bump them off balance before you get to your spot, to free up your path to your spot. Another area where J-Dub is just much improved is understanding and having strong enough hands to utilize different gathers. So whenever you gather the ball, do you gather it low? Do you gather it high? To avoid traffic and to finish through contact. Those two vast improvements that J-Dub's made, that we pointed out, those are both things that SGA does at an elite level. And I think that those are both ways where you can see visually in the production on the court, where you can see those off-season workouts with SGA come to life. Whenever J-Dub talks about how much it helps him working out with SGA, I have to assume that those are two big ways it does, because those are two big ways that SGA's found success in the NBA. Those are two big ways that J-Dub's found improvement, being a more aggressive player, being a more aggressive scorer this season. Coming up, let's talk about your takeaways from this game. Give the show over to you for staying up and watching that defenseless game. I've seen better defenses for teenagers whenever they walk in the door and their mom asks them, why are your eyes red? I've seen them have better defenses than what we saw in this game against Portland. But coming up, we'll do your takeaways. But right now, let's talk about our good friends over at Game Time. Game Time is great. And I think that you should use Game Time right now, because I think it's they have everything for you. They have concerts, movies, sporting events, everything for you. I think that Game Time is the perfect place to go get NBA tickets because of the nature of the NBA. We just talked in the first segment about how, I think that SGA might be feeling it some today. We'll see what the injury report looks like. In all likelihood, he'll be questionable. We don't know that, but just in all likelihood. And so, you're sitting around Friday and you're wondering, should I go to the city? Should I go to the game? What's the status of SGA? And you might not get that until after Mark's press conference. You might not get that until tip-off. And so what you want to do is wait it out and see, is SGA going to play? Is Bam going to play? Is Jimmy Butler going to play? Are these stars going to play? And with Game Time, you have that luxury because it's last-minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. It's perfect for the NBA. You can always ensure that you're going to go to games that matter and that stars are playing in if you use Game Time. So find out how best you can use Game Time by going to Game Time right now. Go into the app, creating your account, and using code LOCKEDON. When you use code LOCKEDON, you get $20 off your first purchase. Terms and conditions apply, but again, create your account. Use code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON, for $20 off your first purchase by downloading the Game Time today. You download it, and you get these last-minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. And I think that, again, it's great for the NBA because of their flash zone deals, their lowest prices guaranteed situation on the last-minute tickets. And you even have ticket insurance policies for event cancellation, protection, all that good stuff over there at Game Time for other events that are outdoors and such. And so go check it out today at Game Time, and that's gametime.com, and then use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. We're back on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. Thank you so much for making us your first listen every single morning, every single day. We're here for you talking Thunder basketball. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. And now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV. It's the free Fire TV channels app. It's Locked On Sports Today. It's here for you 24/7, covering the top stories from the day with local experts of Locked On. Go there right now and check it out today on the Amazon Fire TV situation at amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV. That's amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV. Also on YouTube by searching up Locked On Sports Today. Let's talk your takeaways. Look, you've survived another late tip. You deserve a little spot here on the show. Melvin says Avatar dub game is a thing in the fourth quarter. Listen, I'm going to have to call Locked On Mavs because Nick Angstead is a huge Avatar fan. He'll likely fire me when he finds out that I've never seen or know anything about Avatar. I'm going to assume that this is a compliment just based upon my context clues. But sure, Melvin, sure. Why not this year says, when Giddey is good, this team is unstoppable. Also, the Thunder have to get Joe more than one shot. Got to get more actions for him. Isaiah Joe, he's going to also be a huge swing if he can loosen up defenses and he can knock down threes, with the secondary unit and with the staggered lineups as well. But yeah, Josh Giddey, whenever he's playing engaged, even if that's just what you get, and I know that that's a low bar, but if that's what you get, that's still good enough. And then from there, you can start building and stacking and having a lot of success. From post-Punk 01. I just hope Shai's injury is something minor. I think that you saw something similar whenever he missed that Golden State game, where it was just kind of a one-game absence and away you go. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. I don't think that this was going to be so dire that it's a long-term situation. Again, this is all speculation. I don't think it's going to be a long-term situation, but I also don't think that the Thunder will do anything to put him in harm's way. So the bottom line is nobody knows anything yet. Nobody knows yet. They've got to see how it reacts whenever you get a feeling for it tomorrow and everything else. Sway says Giddey did a little bit of everything today. Yeah, Josh Giddey was really good today for sure. Chris says felt really sloppy tonight at times, but the team showed that they can fight through it. Yeah, the game was sloppy. The game was really sloppy, and it wasn't smooth and it wasn't pretty. And at times it looked like a dying duck, but it just had to go in the win column, and they put it in the win column with this game. And I think that you're right. They do deserve credit for fighting through a game where they clearly just did not have the motivation. I think that's part of it. Is just diehard fans don't want to hear it because you're using sports in this podcast and you're using everything about this team. And I appreciate the fact that you do as this kind of escapism most of the time. And so you get off of your job and you look at these guys and the job that they have, and you think, well, they should always have a great day at work. They should always go out there and be motivated to play their best. And the bottom line is it just is going to wane sometimes. And so in a game where you're playing a bad team with a bad environment, in a game where you've started out bad, right, defensively, you're not dug in, you're not playing to your standards, at those times, you're going to have to gut through some of that. And they did that. And I think that J-Dub deserves a lot of credit. We talk about J-Dub as a scorer. Also, J-Dub is an emotional leader for this team. As a guy who rarely ever has a bad day. I know that LA was just this abnormal stinker for him, but never has a bad day. Is always energetic, is always in your face, is always going to have these big plays and big moments to ignite something. It can ignite just enough. Just a spark is all you need against Portland. You don't need a forest fire to beat Portland. You need a little tiny spark to get it going. And that's what J-Dub can provide. And that's what he did in this game. So a lot of stuff. This one from Brace says Gordon is starting to get his feel for the offense. Yes, Gordon Hayward, as we mentioned, has always been a solid team defender in this system. He's been moving well enough and been physical enough, physically able enough to play the gaps well and to rotate well defensively. Similar to Giddey, you're not going to have Gordon Hayward be a point of attack guy and be an elite defender, but you can have him be a team defender with the talent you can put around him. And it always came down to, are the shots going to go in or not? People were looking into this so much and were overanalyzing this so much of how is he moving? How much lift is he getting off the floor? The bottom line is the shots rimmed out. And he wasn't taking a lot of shots because he was visualizing and seeing kind of how he fits into this whole grand scheme. And also, let's not forget, this is a guy, as we've mentioned over and over again, has not played basketball since Santa Claus was in town. Like, he's going to take time to see live NBA competition and get caught back up to the pace of the NBA, especially with a faster team. So Gordon Hayward, I would say that you need to give him to at least St. Patrick's Day before you start getting up in arms. And he shows you in this game that he can hit that trailing three. He can get that and one. He can provide 10 points off the bench and, even more than the points, provide that threat of shooting. That threat's enough. Look how they guard him. Look how close they stay to him compared to other players on this roster. And you see that in value right there because that helps everyone else. It might not net him anything in the box score. And to this point, it hadn't until he got to this 10-point game. But it does make everyone else's life easier. So Gordon Hayward did well in this game. Bad at sports, same. Could J-Dub be a number one and keep the Thunder competitive if asked to or needed to? I mean, I think that he could be a number one eventually. I think that he can be a number one scoring guy, right now. And at times he is. At the start of the fourth quarter, he is. There's a reason why fourth quarter J-Dub is a thing. Obviously, if there was a reason why the Thunder had to have him as a number one for a sustained amount of time this year, then everything changes because no team can lose the MVP of the league and then be steady. But yeah, J-Dub is a really, really good scorer and can be a number one option, I believe. Because here's the thing. People who aren't dug into this team, which I get it, you have 30 teams to cover if you cover it nationally, or if you're a fan, you only have so much bandwidth, right? And there's no shame in that. Like if you're a fan of a specific team and you are going to watch all 82 games, they play every other day. You probably have other life responsibilities where you'd be lucky to get 82 games. So a game a day. And most days, your team's playing and you're not going to get to watch other teams because they're also playing at the same time. And when your team isn't playing, you likely need to spend that time doing something else if you're just a fan, which I totally get. So, people are going to look at J-Dub and knock him for having SGA and say, well, could he really score like this if he wasn't with SGA and he didn't have the gravity of what Shai can do? Yeah, I mean, he does it without SGA on the floor. Like, that's how good this Thunder team is that he scores at such a high clip without SGA, kind of holding his hand, so to say. He can generate for himself. Obviously, life gets a lot tougher whenever you don't have SGA to put in those lineups with him. I'm not saying that he's all just a self-made man from J-Dub, but he is an upper echelon scorer, even if SGA was not sharing the floor with him, which luckily for the Thunder, they do share the floor together. That's really cool. Ian, I assume it's Ian Grimm, like Ian Kinsler. Or is it Ian Eagle? Ian Kinsler, Ian Grimm. I just prefer it that way, so I apologize if it's not that way. Why have the Thunder opponents been shooting otherworldly from three recently? I think the part of it's just like their NBA players. Part of it is like you're running into a string of like they're good shots to give up. The dirty little secret is, as much as everybody wants to clamor for, you got to play defense in the NBA. I mean, they just don't play defense anymore. They don't care anymore. It's not that. They don't got to dig in there and rebound and close out and box out and play good defense. They don't got to do that. They do that. It's just incredibly hard. Some of the sixth men, some of the worst scores, quote unquote, in this league would be otherworldly scores in previous versions of this league. So it's incredibly hard. And in the modern game, you're going to have to let teams get something. You're going to have to let them get something. So when you give a corner three to a traditionally bad three-point shooter, even if that shot goes in, okay, you live with it. It's just so happened that you've ran on a string here of bad three-point shooting teams like San Antonio, like LA. And like Portland, they've outdone themselves in those good shot quality shots that you're willing to live with. And that's going to happen. And that's just kind of what you do. Because you can't take away everything. You just can't. Not in today's NBA. RK says Giddey balled out tonight. He did play really well tonight in this game. A lot of these are just about Giddey and Gordon Hayward, which we've talked about. Steely Dave says that J-Dub should shoot more threes. He's really good at them, it seems. Can confirm that J-Dub is really good at shooting threes. And he's really good at shooting threes at all phases of the game, in terms of first half, second half, game on the line, whatever. He's also good at shooting threes on every area of the court, which you love to see from Jalen Williams. You look at his three-point shooting. In the corner, he shoots 50%. Non-corner, he shoots 43%. And overall, he shoots 44%, according to Cleaning the Glass. The lowest percentile of those three levels is 94th, and that's in the corner. He's 94th percentile in non-corner threes and overall three-point shooting. Can confirm he's really good. He's a bona fide three-level scorer, J-Dub is. But on tomorrow's show, we're going to be back giving you stock watch of every single player on this roster. Is their stock rising? Is their stock falling? We'll be back after that Miami game to recap the Heat game. We'll be back after that Grizzlies game to recap the Grizzlies game. We're here for you. Subscribe, like, and review as well. Lockdown Thunder anywhere you get your podcast from, including on YouTube. And until tomorrow, be good and be good to one another.